Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friend Preston Poulter. And if you go to pocketjackcomics.com and sign up for his email list, he will happily send you 3 PDF copies of his comic in your email. You'll be signed up. You can actually try it before you buy it. And Preston was very nice to me and to my eBay store, Pop Anime Comics Collectibles, where everybody who orders comics from me gets one of these in their order and some other cool swag. You never know what's going to pop into your box. So definitely, if you're interested in comics, you can get a free issue of White Lily, issue 4 of 5. And who doesn't want free comics? And again, you never know what's going to be in your box with me. So enough about that, though, because I have with me Doran Corkum. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Awesome to be back. It's been a while.
No. I am very, very excited to have you back. Yes, it has been a while. It's been at least, I think, 2 years. Yep. At least. But I do want to talk about what you got going on, at least for the first half, because I'm sure we're going to talk about some other stuff too. But you have a Kickstarter going on, Rakehell, and that is issue 2. And it's a very interesting book. I got a lot of questions about it. I'm a little scared. Luckily, I'm nowhere near it. So I'm safe. But jokes aside, what is the comic about for those who don't know anything about it? Because there's going to be people who say, "What's Rakehell?" And so, what is the basic premise?
Yeah, so Rakehell is obviously a horror comic or dark fantasy comic. It's based around a world I call the world of Whitefire. So it's one of those kind of worlds, obviously, that I've created. But it's part of it in a very small way. But it's a great story focusing on a character that I call Keeper. He hasn't been introduced with his name and what it is right now. Who is he's a Templar priest, which is kind of announced in the first issue. You kind of learn these things a little bit, so I don't want to talk too far into things, but it's about a secret Templar order basically that's been hiding and trying to protect us from the devil or the demons from hell. So they've been fighting for a long time, and we're getting exposed to that conflict and what's left of the order that Keeper was part of, as he kind of made a mistake. He did an exorcism and it didn't go the right way, and he got taken advantage of, and he made a very powerful demon crossover into our world. And so now the cursed town of Rakehell is going to deal with it, and we're going to learn more about that town called Rakehell.
Yeah, let's actually talk about this, because a lot's going on in this book. And so my understanding, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, and I view Rakehell, the town, as a character in of itself in a lot of ways. Yes. Where there's certain books that obviously, the setting isn't a character, and then sometimes the setting is the character. This is one of those books where I feel the setting is the character.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so obviously Rakehell is sort of a forgotten town. Nobody wants to go there. You probably don't want to be there. It's probably not, the place to be on your vacation. And
no, it's not your vacation spot.
and I guess my understanding, and again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, is that it's kind of a place where evil dwells, and that demons and people who are demonesque or bad people, or people who are in association, I guess, with the devil or a demon lord or whatever you want to call it, go and they sort of collect souls. And then Keeper did something that kind of opened up a gate, I guess, and did something where it opened something up that kind of helped to facilitate this. And people who tend to go to Rakehell sometimes survive, but if you survive the night and fend off a demon, you're sort of stuck there. So what is that like? Because people can come to it, but then they can't really leave.
Right. Yes. Well, they can leave, but they're not going to be doing so good, and they could be possessed as well. So there's a whole thing about the way this town is, and you're right that there's a lot going on, and that the town really is a character to this, or its state at least. So at this point in the story, though, it's going to be a lot of backstory going into kind of a little bit what you've said. But right now, that town is beaten up. It's almost a ghost town. So the people who are left there are very hardy, the few that are left, or very unknowing of what's going on. And I picture something, like the straggler going down the road, homeless guy stumbling across this town, not doing so well in life afterwards, thinking he found a place to stay for the night. But for sure, it's quite you're right. There's a lot of possession. So the town is actually egotistically named as well. Rakehell is actually the name of the demons, a demon class that I kind of create. I'll call it a class. Basically, what has happened is this is in Gabriel Hand of Gods, the beginning writing of that short story comic I have. It basically talks about the fact that the devil is upset at the balance that's happened between heaven and hell. So he created a new demon. This is ages ago, called a Rakehell, from his own flesh. So he ripped off a piece of his flesh and created this demon, this demon king. And then he's gone out and he's just brought another level of hell to everything, and possession and all that stuff. So they've been working for a long time, and that out of balance is where everything's kind of playing off of. And I don't want to go too much into the world of Whitefire. We've got a couple little things leading into it, but it definitely plays into it all, because there's a Lydian side of this, which are angels, but not angels. So a lot of people go, oh, look, that's angel art. It's actually not angel art. Those are usually Lydians. So God needed to react, right? And angels weren't the best fighters in the world. All the nice people are getting into heaven, right? So he took the people from purgatory who were stuck there, the souls that he needed, and he didn't want them to go to hell to recruit them. So he took them and turned them into an army. So there's whole political thing going on, and Lydians aren't exactly happy to be doing this fight. But anyways, so that all plays into this. There's imbalance and this big conflict going on in the background, right?
So let's actually dive into this, because it's really interesting, at least for me, where you have a town that is sort of the opening point, but it's also a scrimmage area in a much larger battle. It's also a very, I guess, strategic point to some degree. And then what you have is that you have a whole political battle going on in a very focused group. So it's kind of, I'll throw an anime out there. So War and Pocket, I'm a huge Gundam fan, and War and Pocket there's a war going on in the 079 War in Gundam. And then War and Pocket is just focusing on one small colony and how they're dealing with that. And it's 6 issues or 6 episodes. And I feel that that's similar to this in a lot of ways, where you have a much larger scale of a war going on between heaven, hell, Rakehells, angels, a bunch of people not liking what's going on, people doing people's bidding and wanting their own shit to do. But then you have this town that is also having its own battle between these demons, the possession, the devil, darkness, evil, and you have people coming into the town, rebuilding the town, and fending this off, and also wanting to, I guess, solve the problem. Or maybe they don't want to solve the problem. Maybe they like it. I don't know. It could very well be that beneficial.
You have to read it to find out how it goes, right?
In certain respects, I mean, I would imagine there are people who say, look, I like this area because it's beneficial to me that I could take my shotgun and kill something. I mean, to put it bluntly. So what is that like? Because it creates a very interesting dynamic when you micro focus down a conflict into a town, and then people are coming in and out of that town, and everybody now has a different motive per se for what they want to do in that town, because it's kind of ground zero.
Yeah, and you're right. That part of the story, when I get to it, it's going to be phenomenal. Same with the Templar side of thing. Like, I'm a huge Templar historical fan, but the corruption of people and the way they're corrupted in this part of the story, there's not many left there, but there's a reason for that, and those who are there are so strong of will, or for other reasons they haven't been manipulated, that they know there's something wrong. How to deal with it is a different story. But they're trying, you know what I mean? They've done their part. Some of them have just retreated and won't give up. They've been there a long time, right? Like this order. There's a reason this Templar order is near this town, and why they're here in this struggle, right? They didn't just arrive here magically. Something happened, and they've done something to the town to build. They're probably the reason why it got built, actually. And there's a lot of little things I don't want to go into too much to why it's all kind of happening. Like, they've done their fight, but unfortunately they've lost their fight, if you've seen the trailer, and they went into hiding. And the fact that they've been in hiding is what's caused the town to really fall apart, to this kind of ghost town almost state, where the few that are left. And the new character I'm introducing, Nick, is this police officer, Rakehell County police officer. So he's to the whole county, but this is the only job he could get for his promotion. So he's kind of come in, and he doesn't know what's going on either in this town. And I'm going to enjoy telling that part of it. And I'm also introducing another character, Trev, who's a tow truck driver. And he's just a good old back road boy from back where I'm from pretty well, who's going to not, he survived here all this time somehow. And he's not the brightest, tool in the, or the sharpest tool in the shed.
Let's actually dive into this, because obviously this is a very different way of life, of surviving, yes, building, thriving. And then I would imagine that there's also now, since Nick is a new character and he came to this town and he's relatively new, now all of a sudden, there's this position where it's like, great, you don't know what the hell's going on, but at the same time, you want to solve the issue. I mean, you have a cop in there, and it's kind of like walking tall a little bit. Where
and it's just, it's there's no one else around. He doesn't have a partner. He's literally the only one in the police precinct. So that's part of his trouble to deal with this small town, but also the whole community around it. So the town itself, because it's so decimated, things have happened outside of that, and this is where Keeper will get himself into trouble as well. And even Keeper's been staying in this, we introduced in the first comic, this graveyard. So there's been this Templar kind of graveyard, and there's secrets in there too. There's a lot of things going on in there, which was where the Templars really had built up, or where they've slowly got whittled down to what's happened now. So there's a lot of stuff going. It's very Constantine, a little bit of almost Doctor, like there's magic in it almost to a degree. Like there's sorcery, I don't want to call it sorcery, but religious sorcery.
Go into all this. You got a lot of stuff in play. I mean, there's a lot of pawns being played out, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's interesting about this, is that obviously you could take this on a human versus demons level, and devils and evil. You could take it on, great, a bunch of humans are left, and how did they get stronger? Or what is their negotiation? Or are they selling out people? Or is there a grander plan how to take out these demons? Or is these demons maybe wanting to take out other demons? I mean, you could play this out in 15 different ways, in a lot of ways. And that's what's so cool, is that it's very political what's going on.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say as well, you hit the nail on the head with, I didn't mention about like how Rakehells behave. The Rakehells, other than being the most manipulative demons out there, they get what's called dark rewards for. So the more evil of thing they do, the darker the reward they get. So they get power for corrupting, right? And their ultimate goal is to descend into hell, where a Lydian wants to ascend into heaven. They want to get out of this conflict, right? Those who do the good fight the way it's deemed to them by heaven, which they don't like too much, but some of them will, to get out of this conflict, right? So there's a lot of those little twists in the background of it, but the fact that Rakehells themselves are manipulative, and they have a structure of wanting to replace each other so they can climb their own little corporate ladder, we'll call it dark corporate ladder, is interesting. And the fact that now one is in the real world, an extremely powerful one is in the real world, and his experience in the real world being not of it, and never being human, has a couple little flaws to it, but it adds two things as well. Because from the afterlife, they haven't taken out some of these souls in this town, right, for certain reasons, and now this demon actually has an opportunity, because it's physically here, to actually do something about it in a different way that it couldn't from the afterlife.
It's really interesting, because you get a lot of stuff in play, and you're setting up something where it's obviously very political within itself. It's very political, I would imagine, among the humans. I would imagine that these, angels of light stuff is also very political. And then it's now you got 3, 4, 10 things playing out with each other, and it could be very advantageous to have, a young hotshot cop take out a Rakehell that another Rakehell doesn't like, and that it's beneficial. And same thing, where also it's kind of like cool if you might want to put on a good fight so that you do the most evil or most light or most good thing ever that's ever happened. In order to do it, you got to set up. I mean, it's so interesting in a lot of ways, and it's so psychological. And then on top of that, I'd imagine these people say, I don't want these fucking things here. And now you have them going on and saying, I don't want this angel of light over here, and I don't want this Rakehell over here. And that's kind of where I think Nick is a little bit in what I've seen, where he's like, I kind of want to fix this town a little bit. And now, you got a lot of stuff going on. And it's really interesting, because it's just the potential and where it goes is just fascinating to me. I mean, I find it just fascinating when you world build like this and potential build like this. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does, and narrowing it down is the best part of this series. So I start when I did Gabriel Hand of God, the short story on that. It's a flip comic, so it's 10 pages that way. You flip it over, and it's Quint on the other side, which is 10 stories. So this is called Quint's Curse, which is part of this as well. So you could argue Quint's Curse is a kind of a prelude to this to give you an introduction to Rakehell's. But anyways, yeah, that one is like the big political thing I was trying to get going years ago. But I decided to micro focus, as you say, because I thought there was a lot more I could do with this. And I really liked the Templar stories of like the way the Templars were betrayed and trying to tell a historical part of that and how this town was built, kind of where you were going earlier. So if I can get this off the ground to a state and get this series going off, Keeper has a potential of becoming something that can go back to the Templar days. And, King Philip, for instance, who betrayed the Templars because he owed them so much money, is there's a whole historical thing that happened there that could have been demon related. So there's a whole corruption of the Templars and their destruction and how they had to flee basically Europe and how they ended up in places like if you've ever watched the Curse of Oak Island show, they talk about how Templars could have created all that. That's all. I'm from Nova Scotia, so that's all part of a little bit of this story and their behavior.
To go further into this, because obviously you have micro focused this, and to even talk about comics, I feel a lot of people in comics don't know how to micro focus concepts. And obviously, I've taken, just as an interviewer, I've taken positions where I've tried to hit everything that somebody's done in an hour or 2 hours. And then I've realized very quickly that sometimes that's useful, but also sometimes just like I have voice actors on every once in a while. Great, you pick 10 or 15 roles and you figure out the link to connect them. And sometimes you have to throw maybe 20 in there because it's a link position. But I've learned to how to micro focus things because I got an hour 20 minutes. It's not a lot of time. And so what is that like? Because I think it's a real problem when somebody's trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink in to a comic book, and then they kind of miss, I guess, the minutiae between. And they miss like a moral lesson, maybe it might be or a point, right?
Yeah. If you try to throw too much in, and that's what this is all about. I did this detailed world. Now let's cut it into slices of small kind of. An old boss had a saying, and you might not understand the saying at first. He said, "Spoon feed an elephant," and I never understood the saying when I first heard it until I worked with him for a while. But what he was doing is we had a team of people who had to do something. Instead of giving this big elephant-sized task, spoon feed it, right? So the story needs to be spoon fed in to get it going and to get the characters interesting. And
Did you also feel though that if you take a micro approach, so you create a big world, right? And you take a micro approach, and great, you do 6 issues here, you can spin off something into something else. And then now all of a sudden, because I think sometimes people try to do a 50 issue comic or a 12 issue or a 20. And I think there's a mistake there where I don't think that the mistake is the content realm. I think saying, look, I'm going to do 12 issues here straight out. Then we're going to spin it off this way. Then we're going to spin it off this way. And now what we've officially done is that we have one entry point in that spins off X, spins off Y, and then you can continue to, I guess, branch out and spin off things out of that one focal point. And I think it's a real problem because I think sometimes people try to do 50 issues or 30 issues, and I think that's where they fail.
Yeah,
where
I'm 100%. 100%. Yeah, because in this sense, I don't want Keeper's story, Rakehell, to go off. Now, it can flavors of it, as I talk about. We want to deal with the town. We want to deal with Rakehell, the Rakehell town, and the Rakehell in it, and all that stuff, and introduce the bigger story and some other kind of I don't want to say historical, but legendary characters from the demonic world, and stuff like that. We want to do something like that, but we need to. If you focus too broadly, you won't get a good story. It's just going to become mush. You got a bunch of Lydians. Why do I care about the Lydians? If it's not an individual that you can get some kind of individual understand, and Keeper's not even going to be the main focus, actually. Keeper's our starting point, but the whole point is, as you mentioned earlier, is the town and the people who are affected by the situation in the town and what Keeper's state is in that town, right? So it's if you don't do that, and if you, as you say, 50 comics that's a lot. Like I'm hoping this will go 8 to 12 comics, and this part of the story will be done. And
Do-
then
do-
you take the
do you
next chunk,
also-
right?
Do you also feel though, because this is how I feel, right? I think business wise is that if I'm to do a comic and I want to, let's say I want to do 20 issues, right? I'm going to break that up into arcs, right?
Yeah,
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 to 4. Great. 1 to 4, the start, right? Then 5 to 8 is going to be the middle, okay? Or it's going to be the drift, right? If it, I like car racing, right? So we could use different terms in that regard. But then you do 1 through 4, the drift, because you want to let people know, hey, this is a sequel, but it's also, a new number 1, because that will help sell in a lot of ways, because people like number 1s, people like keeping things fresh. And I think it's very important sometimes to keep things fresh and keep things, saying, hey, we're a continuation, and then put legacy numbering below that 1,
yeah.
because I think it's very helpful. And I think there's a real problem where I don't think people say, cool, I want to do 50 issues. What happens when you get to issue 11? Nobody gives a fuck and nobody's buying it.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's totally. And how to build 50 is hard. If you've ever seen, like, read books on writing comics and stuff, like I have this Excel sheet with cells in it, for instance, for the Forsaken Future and this, but it gets complex just doing 12. You know what I mean? The Forsaken Future series is meant to end as well within the same type of time frame. But keeping interest is hard. That's why, as you say, you respin it, you talk about another character, but you tell the same story under the hood, like about the Lydians and the Rakehells, right? But you spin it with another character from the story that you introduce in it. You now are spinning off a number 1. Like, there'll be a lot of characters here that I can do that with. What I'm fortunate with is I've been doing this since I was a teenager. I started building this, so I'm just starting to figure out how to interact this. Can I sell it? Can I not sell it? How will I tell the story? But I have all these branches already kind of understood, to what goes which direction, what I expect to happen. Is there another story over here I can get to? The other thing too that makes it even larger. This is crazy. When you hear this, it's gonna be crazy. I used to have a map of it over there. I should have brought it out. It's not meant. So my afterlife, the world of Whitefire, is not meant to just be Christian based, like with Gabriel, hand of God, devil versus God type mentality. It actually was meant to be a multi kind of belief system where all the religions exist in some form. And then that was another level of conflict I was going to introduce. And this is me starting years ago. And that's when I realized it's too much. As we're talking about, you're going too crazy. You got to focus it down. But I do bring some small elements into Rakehell from other spots, mythology and stuff like that.
See, it's interesting because you mentioned something about strategy, right? So obviously, when you're building anything and creating anything, I mean, strategy matters. And I think strategy matters heavily in creativity and creation. Obviously, I'm running my YouTube channel and I'm doing a lot of work. I'm figuring out my next bunch of moves. And what I found is that micro content is beyond effective. I found that shorts are beyond effective. I found that reels are beyond effective in a lot of places. Instagram is effective, Facebook is effective, and it actually drives traffic. And so there is a strategy in moving forward. And obviously going into 2024, I'm trying to figure out what content I want to put next to each other. And the reason why I bring this up with comics is that I think it is really important to understand that, cool, you have a main line. Then if you're going to do one or a two-parter talking about a character, where do you place that? Because if you have a major arc and something major going on between issues 5 and 6, and I need to know about a Lydian and I need a reason to care, it might make sense to do a two-parter that isn't necessary to the story, but provides more insight. And so what is this like? Because I think this is what's also lacking in comics, is that if you have a big world, or even if you don't have a big world, or you have a separate book, it can make a lot of sense. I use Travis Gibb as an example. If he knows he has a book that doesn't do well, it might make advantageous sense for him to do the book either before or after a Cthulhu Invades that does well.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because now he's drawing interest either on the front end or the back end to that book if people know it's coming. And I think that's a real problem right now in comics and in business in general. And I'm curious because it seems like you have a strategy at the very least. Whether that strategy works or not, I think it's a real problem because I'm developing strategies in just getting content out and what to put next to each other so that it helps each other.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with doing what I do in life too, right? So I work in R&D and that, and there's the old saying, "Throw it at the wall and see if it sticks," right? So there's a degree of investment you got to do strategically into that, you know, that type of innovate or that type of change. So certain characters actually in this series are throw at the wall, see if they're going to stick, and then develop them. But some of them are already flushed out that you're hoping are going to work out, right? So that's where it's tricky, but you got to react to what people want. And times change. Like when I wrote this when I was younger, the first thing I realized, and this is total to the market, and you're going to agree with this 100% when I say it, I didn't have any female characters too much in the stories. They were kind of more of a sidekick the way I grew up reading comics, and I realized that's totally wrong, right? You know, to this world today, strong female characters are extremely important. And so I've been slowly working them in. You don't see a lot of, well, I've already introduced one, but it's not obvious what's going on yet. So there's female characters coming, and that's a reaction to today and making really cool characters. They're really, really cool. One of them was actually based off a friend I worked with who always supported me. So you know, I released a Don Lydian card with Rakehell 1, and that's actually I named after a person I worked with. And there's the other character coming called Artis, who I call as a fate dealer. So she's a psychic with or a fortune teller. So those characters are coming, and it's just a matter of time. But Artis is actually based on my mother's name was Artis, so it's actually a character based off of those type of things that are they're in my life, and they're coming out, and hopefully they'll be cool characters because they're going to be hopefully different than the mainstream. Paul.
No, no, I don't disagree. Like sometimes do change it, and I react to the market very much. But I don't want to push any more into your book because there's a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on, but I do actually want to talk about Inside Baseball and Kickstarter in particular because I hate to say this, it's going to sound messed up, but Kickstarter is tough, and it is a dumpster fire right now dealing with all of it. It really is. Where it is brutal. There's 300 plus projects out on Kickstarter. There's a lot of good projects on. I obviously just had Ralph Tedesco on from Zenescope, and they're killing it with their trading cards, and it's comic-esque. It might be a good way to put it, where it's still comics, but it's also trading cards, and they're doing like 75,000 plus. But then you have people who are just dying on Kickstarter and struggling. And so what is that like? Because you have a whole breadth of things going on, and getting a book funded right now is really tricky.
It's painful, and a lot of people don't understand how political Kickstarter can be and how important it is to get funded in your first couple of days. Some people would argue. So I've been around the block a little bit now with my fourth Kickstarter. I'm starting to get there but I'm not playing kind of some of the games to the extent I could. My goal is different than most. I'm throwing it out there. I'm hoping, I'm putting a lot of time, a lot of investment into the Kickstarters. And you can do that. And what I've learned is you can do it and it's not going to help you at all. You can throw your ad money away. You can because it's not going to get you the people you need to support your comics. But to me, the lucky thing is
the game side, because this is my issue, right? So there's a lot of, in my opinion, and this is just me taking a shot at a lot of pay to play going on. A lot of that's going on. A lot of you back me, I back you. A lot
that's
of
Yep.
And how the hell is that a business? I mean, I'm gonna get real controversial here. Where I don't think that is a winning business model. I think that is a competitive red ocean strategy that is just a matter of time before it fails. And I think it's going to come. I think it's going to come. I really do. And so my whole point, though, is that if you are paying for people to push you out, you're paying for PR firms, there's going to get a point where that doesn't work. And the whole thing is on a pillar of sand. And that's what I don't understand is that, to me, that doesn't seem like a business versus building up your audience and burning slow, because that's what I'm seeing. And I'm not a Kickstarter person per se. I've run one. I think was a disaster, but I see it as a consumer and I see the end result. And so I don't understand it because I see how this story is going to end in 6 to 12 months.
I don't think half of us understand it that are in it. I was looking at I was on a show with a couple other creators the other day, and I could see they're already up to like 50 backers, for instance, and they're flying, they've surpassed me. But I'm on my fourth one, right? So it's interesting. I thought for sure I'd be at like 100 backers on this one. I probably won't hit that. But to me, it's more important me to find one reader than it is for 40 supporters who aren't going to read it, right? So I have a different thought on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Please. What are you saying?
Yeah. I'm just saying that it's fantastic. If 50 people back me who aren't going to read it, you know what I mean? I don't care. It's about the story. It's about getting the story out there. I'm not in it to make money as much as I'm a creative spirit.
Do you
just trying to get it out there? Yeah.
Do you also think that there's a lot of games going on, even beyond our games?
Sure. Yeah, and I see it. Yeah, and I know, and I can speak to as we've discussed a little bit before. My friend Corey, who's very successful at what he's doing with Sister Mercy, and here I am, someone who's worked with him, and I'm like down here in like the couple $1,000 range. He's like 20, 30. You know what I mean? But we've had very different strategies for what Kickstarter is to us, and we're at very, very different points in it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So. And he's an amazing writer. So he's done a brilliant job of bringing in a female character, putting in a great story behind it, and adding that sex kind of symbolism side of it. That he's done an excellent job, and that's why it's worked for him. Where I didn't put in I didn't want to insert a female character into my stories for the sake of inserting it. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to. There's certain things I didn't want to do to try and follow a formula to get me to a certain spot. But I do think it's important.
The reason why I bring this up is that I also think, though, that there is a bunch of stuff where, I think there's a lot of bagel art covers that sell. I think the nude stuff sells. I think that also, that, but for every good, strong female character book that is out there, there's also a bunch that are really bad. And
this is what I've heard. Yeah, it's trust me, it sucks as someone. You're hitting at something that drives me nuts, but I have to laugh on the inside when it happens, because I've been beat out by so many comics where I look at it and they're just, you could tell there's a political side to it, or that they have a big family, or maybe they're at a school and the school backs them, and it's just not good quality stuff. And that's not a hit on them. We all have to, I've gone through the stages of building quality,
but it is though. See, it's actually a step backwards, right? If something is shitty, and this is the part where people can disagree with me all day, but if something is shitty and it gets completely funded and does $50,000 and it's shitty, that actually sets things backwards. It doesn't move things forward because it sets a lower bar, which means that somebody else is saying, oh, that's how we get to 50,000. And then we end up hollowing out a whole quality of work for a generation. And this is the problem, is that and look, I understand the market speaks. I'm a free market guy, but then people say, why do stories suck? Well, newsflash, somebody got 30,000 for putting out a really shitty book, and then everybody emulates it trying to get it, and you hollow out a market, and people forgot how to tell good stories. So I do criticize it, and I say it's actually really bad. I don't know how to solve it. The market needs to change and say, well, we want something, because probably what happens is that, again, there's big money that comes in and can prop something up, where it's the idea that if $10,000 comes in the first hour of your campaign, it's like, this is a good campaign, I need to back it because what's here.
Yeah.
And then the second issue, same thing happens. And then all of a
sudden, probably doesn't make it to a second issue half the time. It's just one, kind of, well, sometimes they do. But and it's not fair to, like, art is always in the eye of the beholder.
Well, like, I'm not even talking about the art. I'm talking about the writing.
Yeah, the writing. I'm talking about. Unfortunately, there's, to my understanding, and even what I've read of Marvel sometimes, or what I've seen when the industry started falling apart when I was younger, even, that when writing goes to, I'll use hell in this sense for Rakehell, when it goes to hell, it's funny, people will still back it for the cover. I get it. I'm an art guy. I'm an artist. I love art. Look around, you know what I mean, behind me. You know what I mean? I love art. I get it. But when it's bad art and it's getting supported, it's obvious it's low quality, it's not. But I also understand those are not my fans, right? That's probably means they have something else going on that allows them to, whether it's family, whether it's some kind of other support system, whether it's other Kickstarter people who for some reason resonate with them. It's probably more about the person than it is about their story. And that's what I don't want it to be about Doran Corkum. I want it to be about Rakehell. I want it to be about the Forsaken Future, right? And the characters in it. So to me, that's what I've learned
You also
in
feel
reverse. You know what I mean? I have to sell myself now out there, but it's not, that wasn't never my goal, you know?
see that's interesting, because a lot of stuff that I see, and look, I'm guilty of it, I'm sure you're guilty of it, is I back campaigns just for the cover. I love cover art. I love really cool stuff, covers. I'm a cover collector. I built a business selling covers. I get it. But again, it's a problem, because all of a sudden, that's what's going on. And I do agree that I do think a lot of times this has become very much about the person and not about their book. I also think it's been about buying favor. It's been buying clout. It's been buying, hey, if I'm associated with person A, they're going to help me get X, Y, and Z. And I also think that a lot of you guys are in real positions of saying, cool, I just need to get my book funded to do my project. So I need $6,000 to do this. How do I get $6,000? And if I back person X, great. And then I'm in a person X's club, cool. They're going to help me out and they're going to push me up, but then you have to keep rebuying into their club. And I think this is where this gets really, really complicated versus building a business and building a sustainable business. And I think that everybody's just, I think everybody's paying versus earning media. I really do.
And you can tell who's doing really good at, like I'll use Corey as an example as well. Again, he's a good writer. He's a solid writer. So he's very good at, he's involved with the visualization of how the comic goes and everything. You know what I mean? So when have you seen Corey on a stream, right? You don't need to see, Corey doesn't need to be on a stream because he got his art out there in a very smart way. He introduced a story and a character I was really impressed with the end of Sister Mercy #1, actually, and how he sold what was going on. I never saw how he was going to sell it. But he wrote a story, and the story is so good that he got all those fans, you know what I mean? And he did the art. People liked the art, right? Ricardo's art. And then he introduced Vincent Letta. Is it Vincent or Vinny Letta? But anyway, he was really smart. He introduced a lot of good cover artists along the way. And that's how he built it, that he doesn't have to go out on streams and make his success. He just has to launch a comic and people know it's good, right?
Yeah, no. It's very, very, very complicated, and people have to do media, and people give issues with
media. Yeah.
But again, I'm just looking at all this, and I don't know if it's sustainable, because I see Kickstarter and I see that things are not stable. I that's my take. That's my take on this, where I think the whole industry has been overinflated. I think there's been a lot of bad stuff in the industry. I think there's been a lot of bad creators in the industry, and not necessarily bad people, but bad as in not fulfilling. And also,
I was about to go there too. Yes, that's the biggest thing I think that hurts it. Like I in the end, I don't care about the quality of someone else's work, and there's a lot of good stuff out there. But what really burns me is to find out that these people got backed and they and they never fulfilled. That drives me nuts. That'll never happen with me.
Because
you know what I mean? It might take me a little bit longer, but I'll always fulfill.
I feel that the well, Ralph Tedesco used this term saying the well has been poisoned. Obviously, he was referring to when people do bad cover art and bad art. But there's a position where I think that to some degree, and I'm pulling out of Kickstarter a little bit, because I'm owed a lot of projects, and I'm not owed anything on Kickstarter. I'm owed a few things actually for my business on Kickstarter, which stings even more. But I'm owed a bunch of projects that are like 2-3 years old now. And I'm owed stuff that should have been in my hands 6 months ago and is now just getting printed. Like, there gets a point where, great, somebody has a really cool book, and I'm like, I don't know if I trust you. And as a consumer, because what I said on with Ralph about an hour ago is, I said, your Kickstarter's client, I am your client when I back your book. So I am not a client of Kickstarter by definition as a consumer. And I think this is where the whole thing's gotten jacked up, to be honest, is that I think every creator thinks that the consumer and them are both clients of Kickstarter. And I think when I am a client of you, or I'm a client of Zenoscope who runs a campaign, technically Kickstarter is processing my payment, but it's not an issue of, you and me have a relationship. I don't have a relationship with Kickstarter.
They're just a platform to me in the end. Yeah, you're my customer at that point. Whether you spend $5 on the dollar or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you got to treat it that way. Someone invested in you, and I would hope that other people would do the same. Treat it. Now I'm Canadian, maybe I'm too nice. I don't know, but like, yeah, you gotta treat every. That's just the way I believe, and that's the way I grew up in a small town in the middle of nowhere. Is to respect people who support you.
I think people have forgotten that. I think it's a big misconception that is legitimately my take. That is legitimately my take, and I think a lot of problems are actually rooted in that. I really do. On Kickstarters, that I think a lot of creators have forgotten that I am your client, and I think they think Kickstarter is their client. And I don't think that they understand that Kickstarter is a platform. You're the client to Kickstarter, and I'm the client to you. I am not the client to Kickstarter, and I think that's where a bunch of problems have been rooted. I really do, and I think the whole system is broken that Kickstarter has created. I really do.
I don't understand it. After 4, I just don't get it. Right. So I can't understand what I'm doing wrong. I'll first always look at myself. I always believe I look at myself first. Like, how did I not get to 100? I always ask, because I put so much effort into this.
I can tell you why right now. Here's the reason why. You're not playing in bad girl art. You don't have massively sexy books. Your book is a story-driven concept. It is somewhat horror. People don't have a problem with demons in hell, per se. But they're like, great, I don't want to read a story. I just want to collect a bad, sexy cover that, bam, this campaign is like, boom, hi-fi, sugar-coated candy art, and I can taste the sugar on the cookie. That's what they want.
I love the way you said that. Yeah, and I know that, and I do know that. You're right. And I think a lot of the good creators I shouldn't say good because that takes me out of the equation, but a lot of creators understand they have to sell the sugar to get the notice. You know what I mean? You got to sell a little, give a little to get a little. So it is what it is. I mean, I won't change who I am for the sake of it. I'll keep doing my best. You know what I mean? To figure it out.
I have a viewpoint on this, and I'm curious what you think. Is that I think there is something to be said about saying, look, I'm this way. I run my business a certain way. I run my interviews a certain way. I do things a certain way, and you have to conform. And you know what is? I understand that people get upset about that. I see people say, oh, that's not how things work anymore. I'm like, but you got to realize that I'm killing it right now in everything that I'm doing in a lot of ways, and I'm killing it in sectors that matter. So I don't make money in this sector. And I think making money as a podcaster streamer is beyond hard. I am not a pretty
I can only imagine. Yeah.
I'm not a pretty cosplayer. I'm not a Twitch gamer, but making money is.
Yeah, but it's true in a lot of ways. Like, if I was and I don't mean this derogatorily in any fashion, but it really is. But if I was a sexy female right now on here, there's a different perception we all have for whether we're interested in the story or not. It's just reality, right? I'm a ugly old man, so doing my thing,
No, but you know what is? I sit down, and this is what I say to people. I say, look, if you want to sit down with me for 2 hours and you want to talk about economics, I'll make you rich. I'll make you rich. So really, do you want to talk to the girl you're trying to get in her pants with, who has a boyfriend and has a ring on her finger, or do you want to actually talk to somebody who can help you out? I used to do this panel at Comic-Cons, and it was about how to invest in comic books 101. And I said, this is the most important panel here, because you're going to go back into that dealer's room after this. And if you want to learn how not to get shellacked at this con and have money at the end of the day, and have money and plan your next con, I'll tell you exactly how to make $1,000 work. And you're going to go into every single con with a business plan and a battle plan so that you know where your money's being deployed. I said, or you could go to the, how to shoot a cosplayer panel, and great. And you can talk to the sexy girl. That's great, but you're going to be broke. Do you want to drive a Porsche? And the only question is that black or yellow. Did you want that question? There's a Porsche dealer, because I used to live in DC. I said, there's a Porsche dealership right down Wisconsin Avenue, guys. So the only question you should be asking is that, do you want a black or yellow, or do you want to be talking to, a pretty girl trying to get in the pants? And some people get it. Some people don't.
Yeah.
It sounds derogatory. I know it sounds derogatory, but it's not wrong.
No, it's perspective, and it's all about where we are in life too, right? So I'm in a stable spot. I do okay in life outside of doing this, so I don't need to getting my comics out there. I'm doing everything I can. Like I've invested a ton of times, and I've invested in marketing. I've invested, all this stuff. But I realize, as I've learned and have been told, that traditional marketing will never work. I started there, but my point more is to the fact that in the end, I'm okay. I can. I'm not looking to get rich off this. I would like to get to the 5,000 level. I'd be happy there. That's really my goal. Is to get a couple hundred fans that who will enjoy my story. Not necessarily. I want them to buy my covers because they're cool and different. I invest a lot in that, but they're not. They're not the mainstream of what you want on Kickstarter for sure. There's levels to it, and there's different expectations for sure. There's that certain market.
Feel to go into this, because I think also some of these people who are trying to do 20, 30, 40,000, have all these covers, have 100 covers, or doing 40, 50,000. I think that they're trying to make it their job, is that they run a Kickstarter at 80, 60,000. They're good for 3 months and then do the next one, and the next one, and the next one. They make 12K on it. They sell their books at some cons, and they're making, clean 70,000, and that they're doing comics full time. And I think that there's a cool thing about that, and I think that's great. But you're also heavily reliant on Kickstarter. I mean, and then furthermore, versing, don't you want to treat this as a seed round? Maybe you want to do 3,000, you print your books, and then you go to a bunch of cons and you make money that way. Because to me, if I'm to do a book, and this is just my thoughts, is I want to make about 3,500 would be ideal. Print my books, maybe recoup some of my money, and make my real money at cons, or better yet, make my real money by creating my own exclusives for my eBay store and for whatever store and whatever, and from my whatnot, that too, and control my own supply. Because to me, the real money is in having merchandise that is yours, where the Kickstarter is the marketing that helps cover printing, and you use Kickstarter as a marketing tool. Because I think that's the other thing too. And then you make your money at cons, and then you create your own divergent exclusives.
Yeah, and even the cons can be hard though. The indie comic is particularly where I'm at. So I'm up in Canada. I mean, there's a lot of comic fans, but what's really cool is there's actually a reverse side happening, which I've been waiting for, to actual Comic Con, and that's that. Like, because Comic Cons have become more of about the stars and all that, which I love. I love going to Comic Con and seeing people, the stars and all. That's fantastic. But as a comic book seller, people are not there to see you as a comic book seller. Not most of them, right? It's a very small percentage. But now out here, like I just was at the Capital Comic Book Convention on the weekend, cheap event to go to, made some money back, got to meet actual indie comic people, not a whole bunch of people here to see Gillian Anderson or whatever star they associate with. When Bruce Campbell was here, I wish I would have got to see him. He's my favorite B actor ever, and he loves being a B actor. So I never got to see him because I was working the entire time at a table. But I saw all these little plastic chainsaws going around, all these kids running around with these plastic chainsaws on their hand that were motorized. I'm like, oh my god, he's got marketing everywhere. But my point is that you need to find that niche, that small group of people, even at comic shops, right? I thought when I went into this, if I went into a comic store and showed them my comic, top quality comic, I dedicated my life really to graphic design and web design and all these things. To be able to make my comics, this is just what I do. This is what and as coming from a creative family, right? I'll be playing around. Like, for instance, I got a laser over here. So I've been working on die cut covers, making my own die cut covers. You know what I mean? So I'm the type of guy who's creative, and I'm in a good spot enough in life, not rich, but I'm doing all right, that I'm comfortable, that I can invest some money in this and not worry about losing on it, and try to get it out there. So as you say, 5,000 to 6,000 is probably where most people want to be. I did hear some people talking the other day, and I was like cringing on one thing where they said they had 25,000 invested in there. And I was like, I don't know what's going on at that point. Being someone who's an artist and being someone who's that sounds like a lot.
So to even talk about this, because when people have a lot of money invested in projects, I kind of ask questions: is that what is your financial education? Because I think that's one of the biggest things that's lacking. I look at all these people who run Kickstarter theories and Kickstarter classes and have books on this stuff. And I'm like, great, but where's the chapter on financial education? Where's this little chapter that says, hey, your first book should be about $4,500 at the most. And that's on the high end. And if you're over the top, you should probably reconsider that. You probably can't go out and hire somebody who's going to charge
That
you
cover artist you want that's going to cost you X, right? You can't, if you can't afford it, find an alternative. And it's hard, but the world has opened up now. This is the amazing thing about this all, is if you were to talk to me 20 years ago about this, I wouldn't have had access to half the art, like 90% of the artists I deal with, because I'm finding talent all over the place. I know what I like. I know art well enough that I can figure out what, you know, what I consider cool anyways, and hope that other people find it cool. You know what I mean? But it's hard to afford some of the prices that you got to pay locally for things. Like, it's just what it is, but there's options now, right? And again, your quality changes with that. So that's where some people might run into trouble, but you got to have a budget. If you don't have a budget, and it's okay to blow your budget a bit, but if you're going well beyond your budget, you as a business are doing something wrong. In my books, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? Unless you've got some magical potion to something that you know.
Depends what you're doing. For somebody who just went through a massive expansion and blew up a budget that I shouldn't have, and it was relatively cash flowed positive and point of sale cash flowed and some other stuff. And I wouldn't say I incurred debt, but I used charge cards and some other things rather efficiently, but no debt in the long term. I definitely blew up a budget, but I also knew how to navigate it. So,
I was going to say, if you have the experience, that's a different situation. In my
different.
part, your profit margin, like we talked about this before a little bit off, you know, and we've talked about it before, but you have a profit margin that you can hit, right? That can accomplish what that, if you carry some interest on a credit card or something. But comics are gumballs, as I said earlier today.
For those who don't know, I run an eBay business, and my average profit margin is 28 to 32% per unit sold. Sometimes it's way more, and sometimes it's less. But on average, it's about 28 to 32%. So if I know that if I'm gonna buy a book for $20 and it sells for 60, I'm gonna pull 28% on that book in pure profit. I mean, I can afford to take certain risks. I also have access to other capital, and I have other access to ways how to manage debt that maybe other people, but it took me 10 years to figure that out. And that's the other thing too, is that I don't think people understand how to manage debt efficiently and understand that, hey, if I have a 9 to 5, my paycheck comes in this day, art is going to be paid. I need to pay my artist on this day, but I have a charge card that's at the end of a billing cycle and I don't get paid till here, but I have this other charge card that gets hit at the end of the month, or I already paid this charge card off, and great, now I have another 30 days on that cycle. Utilizing stuff like that is such a tactic that I think so many people don't understand. I just happen to understand it really well, understanding how to move debt around. It's a very complicated thing. I don't recommend doing it unless you are experienced in doing that.
But there's simple things in life that can save you money too. Like my sister, I couldn't believe I was talking to her, and she not to call her out, I guess. But anyways, but she didn't understand what a line of credit was. So I've been using a line of credit for over 20 years. I don't own a credit card. I haven't owned a credit card in 20 plus years. Someone calls me with a credit, I'm like, whatever, throw it away, right? Because I've got a line of credit. So now I've built that up to a really high level because of all these years. But that is better than having a credit card. And you know what I mean? At least from my lifetime, that saved me a lot. So if you don't know how to use what's out there to benefit you, it can be hard. You know, you're paying. I don't want to be paying some credit card company. At the time, I remember when I was younger, and you have no choice at points. You got to build up your credit, right? You're going to have no choice. I remember I had a 22% or 25% Zeller's more. I don't even know if you have a Zeller's in the States, but it's like a Target or something. I had a 22% one when I was young. They were just ripping me off, making $6 an hour, and I had to use it to fill up my truck to get to work a lot because I lived so far out in the country. It was just a financial mess when I was younger.
So I've never had a credit card charge. I'm
Nice.
fortunate, but I've managed that really efficiently. But I've bought a lot of merch on credit. I've also paid off a lot of credit. And I also understand the use of credit. I also pay attention to deadlines. And I think a lot of people sometimes don't understand that there's a lot of ways how to navigate things. And you look at credit cards, there's a bunch of credit cards that will charge you 0% interest for 12 months. And so congratulations. If you need to fund and print your book for $3,000 and you can get a 0% credit card, it's not great, but it's an option.
It gives you a year. It gives you a year. You know what I mean? Not many people, if you need the money, you know what I mean? It's a way to do it.
You're buying time. And I think this is also part of the problem, is that because I see creativity, right? We talk about problems in Kickstarter, and I'm curious what you think, is that I don't think we have a creativity problem in Kickstarter and in comics anymore. I think we have a financial problem.
Yeah, and it gets worse with Kickstarter too, because I was a shipper receiver for 5 to 7 years of my life. So shipping receiving manager, I shipped things all the time. So I have at least a reasonably good knowledge of shipping things.
I do as well.
And
shipper and receiver for my business solely. I'm also the person who puts it up on eBay. I'm the procurement officer. I'm the CEO. I'm the CFO. I am the chief drinker on the job.
We say at work, you're the person wearing the many hats. You have a bunch of different hats you put on.
You got to put in at least 2 years in my company to be the chief drinker on the job. Nice. I want to make that crystal clear.
Okay. And you have to work your way up. There's like a different cup size each year that you have to attain to that in drinking.
It's a tough job. My company's only big enough for one person to fill that job. Chief drinker cannot be the receiver and shipper at the same time.
I was about to say, is this the person who's now doing your shipping?
No.
Package some things wrong.
The chief drinker operates only on Thursdays and Fridays after 7 o'clock.
Okay, all right. So it's scheduled at least. It's very organized.
His shift starts at 7 o'clock. Usually on Thursday night.
And the next morning it starts a little late because of the hangover, right?
Yeah, exactly. Nice. But continue.
Oh no, I was just saying financially, it can be. When I was younger, I never knew where it was going to go, really, like what to do with it. And in having the money in place, I think was more important to me than, as we're talking about money, than going in debt and doing it, because there's risk with it. And as I mentioned before, gumballs, right? I recommend anybody who does comics to read "Why Are You Selling Gumballs" article. It's out there on the internet. It's a great article explaining what a dad talking to his son. Basically, his dad's asking, "Why are you selling gumballs?" in the sense of comic books, because the profit margin's so low. But there's tricks to that, right? Indie comics, a lot of them up here in Canada anyways, and what I charge for an indie comic is $10 each, right? So you're making more profit than the gumball margin of that day. And the other thing, actually, believe it or not, I got this from you when we first talked years ago, is I made the collector's edition. So the collector's edition of Rakehell, which has worked out well in the sense, because I can charge $20 for that, do a higher quality comic, you know what I mean, thicker paper, better cover. The art costs me more from Derek Stevens, but he's amazing with his creativity on it. So to me, my collector's edition is, and I have my Kickstarter only, and part of that's due to our last conversations a few years ago, and me acting on some other things.
Let's actually talk about that too, because I think that goes to what I'm getting at, is that, so for those who don't know, and I haven't really explained this, and I'm sure I'm going to explain it on Friday. Perhaps I'm going to explain it with Marcel if he shows up on Saturday. I'm super stoked for that conversation. We're going to have a good one. But I bought this whole book out in the foil variant edition. And, a lot of people say, oh, that was anticlimactic. And a lot of people, I think, have mixed feelings on what I did. What people don't understand and why I did this and how it's relevant to Kickstarter is, so I have that book. I have all 15 of them in the foil. Nobody else can buy that book. You have to buy it from me. I'm sorry. I'm just going to apologize now. But if you want number 12, I can get you number 12, everybody. I can get you number 13. I can get you number 8. Whatever number you want, I can get you. First come, first serve, because they are numbered serial. It's awesome. I'm so excited for when this thing comes in February. It's going to be great. I'm going to do it again, by the way. I'm letting everybody know. So anybody who's watching this, I'm going to do it again. I'm sorry. But one of the things is that why I did it is that it actually protects my profit margin. So if I only bought 3 of them and somebody else bought 5 of them, and I put mine at $70, they could put theirs at 60, and they're going to make the sale. But since I control all 15 of them, I can set the price at any point, and I have an idea what that book should go for. So great. If I set the price at 65, nobody can compete with me. And I think this is where, and the reason how this relates, I think, back to Kickstarter is that you need to have different books that go and basically reach that level where you need to have a way how to control your supply. I think you need to have a way. I think everybody on Kickstarter should print another book that is their book, that's not on Kickstarter, that they control the sole supply of. So if you're doing Rakehell issue 2, you should have your own eBay variant or your own con variant that's not on the Kickstarter. Because I think this is another way how to control and make more profit. You can say, look, there's 100 of these books that's not on the Kickstarter. If you want it, you got to buy directly from me. You don't sell it elsewhere. You sell it on your eBay store, your Shopify store, you sell it at cons, and great, you're creating your own demand for your product. Because now people who come to your Kickstarter might say, cool, this is not on Kickstarter. And even when you go to higher editions and things like the collector's edition or the Kickstarter only edition, I think this is how you have to get creative.
And you can charge a little bit more, right? So it's a way to access a customer who's willing to pay a little bit more for something that's more exclusive. And if you don't do it, you're not tapping into that extra money you can be making. And that's important when you're making comics at my level. The collector's edition, when I'm at a convention, it works well.
I'm going to challenge a little bit. I don't even think it's at your level. I think if you're doing a $50,000 campaign, I think having a collector's edition or a Kickstarter edition, I think it is so important. But I think it becomes two things. Because A, you're making a book exclusive to an event or to a system or to a selling point. So I love exclusivity. By definition, I want to buy books knowing, hey, they're only being sold here. That book that I put up was only available for 24 hours. So I bought that thing out within 5 minutes of being up. There's other books that are not hollow foils. There's the nude hollow foil. There's the metal. There's the regular virgin editions. That's great, but that hollow foil is gone, and it would have been gone in 24 hours. So my position is that it creates a position of me buying it. So if you have a 2-week campaign and there's a Kickstarter, and then you print 100, you're going to burn 30 of them. It makes me want to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's our opposite side of the stick here, right? I'm the person making it. You're the person, in this case, you're the person buying it, right? If the collector's edition, and you're excited about it. And that's what we want as a creator. I want, the creator, probably may not be the person who would have issue with you buying them up. It's more of the other fans, right? I would assume, because the creators made their money and they're probably pretty excited that they sold them out. Right? You know what I mean? I'm
surprised that Man Olympus was like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I'm pretty sure I didn't get it. I'm a little shocked that I didn't get an email from Ron, because I would be like, yeah, I wanted to do this and I kind of wanted to buy it. Like maybe if I do it 2 or 3 times, I'm like, hey man, like what are you doing here? I'm like, I like your books. They do well in my store, and I'm just trying to protect my profit margin.
Yeah.
Would you like to come on my show and we can talk about it? I was actually really hoping I was going to get an email from Mount Olympus, Ron, because I actually do want to have a conversation with him. I like what he does. But the point is that maybe 2 or 3 times in, I think it'd be interesting. But I'm a big power user of that company. Big power user. Probably in the last 10 months, I probably bought at least 180 books from them. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot.
That is. That's a ton and a half. Yeah.
But you mentioned something, and I am curious about this. But I'm curious, what would you rather have? Would you rather have somebody buy, your book, or would you rather somebody put it up on Instagram? So because,
you mean like a digital copy, almost like some kind of...
No. Let me rephrase the question. I'm probably not asking this right. So one of the things is that, would you rather somebody buy $100 on your Kickstarter? Would you rather them buy the collector's edition and put it up on Facebook and put it up on Instagram? Like, oh man, I'm super excited for this because I'm glad I got this. I love this book. It's awesome. And put a really fun, tweet about it out, put a really fun Instagram post about it out, put something, on Facebook, or put it in their reel. Because this raises a really interesting question, is that, do you want the money or do you want the media touting out how much somebody loves your book versus 20%?
I just want them to enjoy it. So if I saw someone enjoying it, I realize they're probably going to be back for the next issue. If they're invested in the story, they're probably going to come along for the ride. So I might not make as much money off of person A, but the person who's invested in it, they're hopefully going to be, I can keep them for the ride. And that's something, you know, that
you understand what I'm
I'll sell them
asking?
as well. Yeah.
Because what I'm asking is that what I think is complicated right now is that as if I'm to create something, right? I want people to be like, yo, this interview was great. Oh, this thing was fantastic. His point was spot on this issue. Oh man, that micro content was so cool, right? Versus I don't necessarily, I mean, I want views, but like I also want people to be like, oh man, that was so cool hearing Megan Hollinshead do the original Nurse Joy voice. I haven't heard that in forever. Man, that was cool. How'd you do that? Like, I want that because that to me, in a lot of ways, is more important than a view. Because when somebody that comes to see it, they're like, oh man, this is Nurse Joy. Holy shit. Like, I didn't even realize. So it gets complicated, I think, because I think a lot of what happens on Kickstarter is that I think a lot of after your book is done, I don't see people touting out books. I don't see people touting out even putting up campaigns. And I would imagine as a creator, the best thing is that I get your package and I open it up on a live stream and I'm like, oh man, I just got this book. I just got Hellraid 2 and I'm super excited for it. I can't wait. Oh, guys, see, I got the hollow chrome foil one. And I think that's a problem where I think everybody goes on these streams, they tout out their book, but they don't get after the campaign's over of what did you get.
Yeah, and it's very flattering when it does happen. I don't know if you know, is it Christopher Brown? He does Slaughterhouse.
Oh, that guy! I hate that guy. That guy's such a bad.
You know him. He did a video when he got my stuff last year.
He's a terrible person.
It was awesome.
He deserves
he's really
down.
Cool.
Just a bad person, and we cannot talk
about him. He's too nice of a guy. We won't tolerate this.
I know. We have to go to Pennsylvania and show him who's boss and go hunting.
He doesn't live in Canada. He can't be friendly.
Oh, he's great. It's
not allowed.
I was speaking to him like I think Saturday.
Oh, nice. Well, he was nice and for the Forsaken Future supported it, and I believe it was the holochrome cover he got that I did of that, and he did the opening of it. I really, I appreciated that he was willing to take he was excited enough to open and see what it was, and that's always a cool feeling. And that's why I did the holochromes. Like these two things shining over here, I never do this right, are the holochromes for Rakehell 2. I can never do. My brain will not do it. Those things shining in the back are the posters I made for it, which are pretty badass. I'm really surprised they're not selling better. But you know what I mean? To see that people like what I'm doing is cool. And I think I was the first person to ever do holochrome posters, actually, to realize I never saw anybody else do it, but they look so amazing. Like when you walk down a hallway, when they're on the wall, it just gets your attention, right? All that light hitting it. So, but yeah, it's great to get the attention. It's great to get as long as they're invested in the story, and ultimately is what I'm worried about. What I worry about more than anything else. It's flattering to me when and I certainly know someone like Corey loves it too.
Oh yeah, Corey.
But I'm not looking for fame or anything like that. I'm just looking. It's hard to understand unless you're a creative person like me. I just want to tell the story.
I'm looking for money. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Well, we're different spots. Yeah, and that's what's cool about it, though, is because we can have the conversation from two sides, not the same side, right? And there was, I just couldn't, in my generation, in the way it was, there was no way you could do what you're doing. There was no, if you think about it, there's just no way, because when I went to my comic shop was the only way to get comics, right? And that guy didn't have half of them when you went there.
Let's actually dive into this because it is a double-edged sword. And I'm curious how you think, because anybody can do a comic book now.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to say this again. Anybody can do a comic book. Okay. So
whether it's good or not, but I can't disagree.
And anybody, that's where I'm going with this, is that it's a good thing that gates have come down. And I'm going to say something, and again, it's going to sound a little weird when I say it, but COVID, nobody wanted COVID. But I think COVID has lent itself to anybody can do a comic book. I was speaking with this person named Bella Rockefeller, and we were talking about it. And what she said is that during COVID, everybody got really in touch with themselves on what they want to do. Because when you're home for 15 months and everybody's working from home, everybody is sort of in and out of jobs, figuring out their financials, things are really messed up. everybody asks the question directly, indirectly, what do I want to do with my life now? And so I think a bunch of people said, I want to do a comic book. We had a big surge. And then whether they're good or not is the question, but it gets complicated. And that's a good thing because I'm glad that gates have come down and Kickstarter allows that. But gates are also there for a reason.
Yeah. Well, not, yeah, it's a hard one because again, I'm a creative spirit with anything I do, even in my job, you know what I mean? Even though it's R&D and some people would argue it's boring, but UI design, I love user experience, things that based on creativity and how you interact with things and how you do stuff. Just again, why I have a laser and stuff like that. I play with technology. I've got 3D printers upstairs I'll probably never use again because I bought the wrong, it was more complex than I thought. I realized a laser was better. But anyways, I believe people need a creative output who are of this nature. We need our creative expression. And if it's something that someone else enjoys, that's such an icing on top of us getting it out there, and building it is so much fun. I get such a kick out of my own stories in my head when they come out. It's weird to say. I can be sitting at work and you know what I mean? Boom. Oh, that should happen.
I agree. I agree on that. The reason why I say, though, that gates exist is that this show, I tried making it a free, show, no gates, everybody can come on. And I got some really good guests, but I got some really bad ones too. And it was probably 60-40, where 60 was great, but now, 4 out of 10 guests, it's a disaster. I mean, and I'm not saying I was perfect at the time. Maybe now it would be better. Maybe it'd be, 2 out of 10, which is a hell of a lot better. But even still, my show is very gate capped. It's very curated. It's very approached. I usually don't take solicitations, and it's very rare that I do. And there's a lot of reasons why. But the main reason is that I want to know who the hell I'm interviewing, and I want to know if you're going to be a good guest or a bad guest. Or if even if it's a bad guest, if I enjoy their company, we're having a good conversation, It's fine.
Yeah. So if they can talk, it's probably pretty helpful.
It's the idea, though, that I don't want to be a gatekeeper, but I have to be.
No, and you have to protect you're trying to create something here too, and I get that. You know what I mean? If it's not going to work out in there's probably some people who are very, very talented who can't articulate, or a lot of us are introverts who do this type of artists are not necessarily the most social. I saw this kid.
I can't tell you. So I had somebody on my show, and it was like pulling teeth. It was pulling teeth, and oh my god, I'm like, bro, you gotta lighten up, man. You gotta grab a beer, do something, take something, take a Xanax, take an anxiety pill, do cocaine. I don't care. You gotta lighten up because this is not ending well. And then he was on the second time, I'm like, bro, you're not relaxed. I'm making a joke. Your book is an etchy book. I'm sorry, but your personality and your book are opposite. How did you write?
But that's probably how that person wants to be perceived. It's probably a reflection of themselves and how they want to.
And I like this person a lot, but then he asked again. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't fucking do it. I just can't.
No, you're running away.
I just said I'm booked. I couldn't do it because it was. I think I interviewed him 3 times, and all 3 times it was not great. I enjoy his work. But I'm I can't interview you. You're not a good guest. I'm sorry. And I understand people have bad days, but 3 of them, man, nah. Just nah, bro. Just nah. And I'm I want you to take out the Ferrari and put it into 4th gear, and I want to have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I'm fortunate. I grew up in the southern part of the valley in Nova Scotia. Where everybody's friendly with each other, so I'm not afraid to talk about my opinion on things either, right? I'm a huge lover of wrestling too, so lots of.
So how do you feel about the wall we're building on the Canadian border?
Yes, that wall. Oh no, that thing's fine.
We have Mr. Garrison running it.
Yeah, no, that's the funniest thing. If you watch a video on that, there's this one guy who does Americans understanding Canadians, and it talks about the Canadian border at one point. It's the weirdest. There's a town apparently that it goes right through that switches from being American to Canadian every year or something like that. He claims, and I didn't even know that existed, but it's the weirdest border ever. But yeah, no, we have an invisible border, but it's really not. We're not that different in the end. We're just a little crazier up here.
So Toronto is an American city. Quebec is a French city, right? Isn't that true?
Sort of, yeah. But Quebec is very almost European. You'd almost call it in a sense, but I don't know if they would like. Yeah, that's just my opinion
if
too.
you go to Toronto and you're an American, you're in America. You're not going to be. Meaning obviously you're in Canada, so you're going to use Canadian money, but you're in very much they don't. It's an American city. Does that make sense? Versus Montreal
it's very much like an American city because it's so large, because it's got so much population and its structure, and you'll be very at home in that sense if you're used to that type of
American friendly is a good way to put it.
Oh yeah, but even Montreal's American friendly. I hear a lot of people love going. Quebec City might be different.
Is not. They are very French. Oui, Francois.
Oh yes, but it's
you Americans.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, if love them or hate them, a lot of French people they have their opinions and they're not afraid to express them, shall we say. I've had a lot of French friends and I love it because they're going to tell you what they think.
Just because Lafayette was one of us does not mean you get to hate us.
In the revolution. No, that's they definitely are strong spirited, and that's what makes them so great. The French people is that their passion. They'll show it to you for sure. If you're a sports fan, so up here in Canada, of course, hockey, right? So I've gone to multiple places to watch hockey. I will never forget going to Montreal to watch hockey. It is amazing. The culture of it and the reaction and the singing and it was like, wow, this is insane.
Want to hear a crazy fact? What is Canada's best export to America?
Other than beer, maple syrup? No. Do you ever heard the maple syrup mafia and all this stuff?
No, okay. It's the weirdest export ever. NBA players. Canada has more NBA players. Like in the NBA, I think, and then like so many other countries. It's insane.
I wonder if there's a reason for that, though.
Toronto, it's huge. In Canada, basketball's huge. So like the Raptors, like the Toronto Raptors, they're big. It's crazy. It's weird, right?
But it wasn't like that growing up for me. Like it wasn't like you had no basketball.
There's all these Canadians that they love basketball, and like they're coming into the NBA. It's insane. It's amazing.
When I walk down my street now, and I played I was on my high school basketball team and all that, and we played basketball in school all the time. But as for playing, seeing it everywhere and it being played professionally anywhere, you never saw that. But now, since the Raptors won, I believe they won. I hope they won. I'm pretty sure they won
2 years ago.
Yeah, and all the streets up here, like I see basketball nets like just when I go outside now. You know what I mean? Kids' yards are now full of basketball nets and stuff like that. So it definitely has the Raptors have had a huge impact on things on this particular side for sure. And it's good. It's good because they actually, if we were to talk historically, we have a national commercial that we created basketball. We actually have a heritage thing, and it has this guy. It's a bucket in the air. It's not a net. It's a bucket with a hole, and the guys, they shoot the ball into the bucket and it's stuck. And the guy's like, "This got to be a way to make this easier." And he puts a hole in the bottom of the bucket, not big enough for the ball to come out, but for him to poke a stick in it to pop the basketball out the top. So there's actually a heritage thing, believe it or not, that we're sold that basketball actually started here. I have no idea if it's true, but usually these heritage things are government done.
Oh, I don't know if it's true either. I mean, I don't know. But
all I can tell you is they're either trying to brainwash us for some reason before the Raptors won about it. Some kind of government's conspiracy. We have the conspiracy of the world. Here's another one, right?
All I know is that South Park with Mr. Garrison as president was the
Oh,
funniest thing I've ever seen. And he's
oh,
building a wall on the Canadian border. Oh, it's so great.
South, yeah. And what's really cool is the product I worked for in the software industry. They actually created Curl Draw, which I'm doing a stream now on Thursday nights for. Curl Draw is actually was used by South Park to make their animations. I had no idea. They actually at one point we were celebrating a release, and it was the South Park creators who all of a sudden popped in and were like talking to us. It was pretty cool.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But getting back to Kickstarter and all that stuff, obviously a nice side through Canada. You're Canadian, so and obviously Chris Brown. Chris Brown's great. The board game developer, not the rapper. I want to make that crystal clear.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's a different fan base there for sure. I don't think we're talking about can rap. Maybe we'll ask him next time.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. It's great. I really enjoy gone hunting. I mean, I enjoy staring at the box. I haven't opened it yet.
Nice.
I'm not too sure if that's how you're supposed to play the game, but anyway, yeah.
I saw them play it a couple times on a stream. Yeah.
I have to ask him the next time I see him. Do you play the game by opening it up first, or is just staring at it with your friends for an hour?
Just mind powers into it.
Just imagine, visualize.
That's right.
Rolling the dice.
There's a game in here where you get to pretend hunt, and now you can do it with your mind.
Visualize you rolling the dice.
I just got a big buck.
I just killed a little rabbit. It's a rabbit.
I'm shooting 100% today. I don't know what it is. I'm really good.
I used the holy hand grenade.
Oh, no. That would be a great upgrade for his game.
Is the monster behind there? No, the monster is the rabbit.
That was, yeah. What was the name of the guy who kept the wizard in front of the bridge? They had to ask the question. Was his name just Phil? There was a really basic name, Phil or something like that, and then they had to. But anyways, yeah, then they get to the holy hand grenade. Oh, I love money
hand grenade. Oh, and then the Black Knight. I can still fight.
Oh.
I can still fight.
My favorite thing is I fart in your general. The French soldiers back in French. On top of I fart in your general direction was one of their insults. You know what I mean? Like I'm not even really farting at you. It's just your general direction.
Oh, it's great. I love Monty Python. Oh my God! Search for the Holy Grail. Great movie.
Bring out your dead in the front, but I'm not dead yet.
The meaning of life.
Throw them on the pile.
But getting back to your campaign, because obviously you got a bunch of rewards, and I do want to go through some of this stuff. Obviously, you got a digital copy, a catch-up copy, the Ghost Town physical, the Gated Soul variant physical, the Hellhound physical, the anime horror variant, which I think is interesting. Which I actually like that idea because I'm a big anime fan. Super cool in that regard. Then you have the digital bundle of White Fire comics, and then you have the Romero variant, and then I think you have a physical, version of White Fire comics. And so, What is this like? Because your campaign has enough rewards, but it's also simple.
It does have a lot of stuff going. Particularly this, I didn't mean to have 6 covers. It just worked out. I would have never typically done 6 covers. 3 would have probably maybe, or 4 even would have been considered a lot for me. But what happened was I got one artist late who needed work, and I loved his art. Erwin, I forget, always Jay Araza, but he's done a couple. He's done Timothy Finn's covers, and a couple other people, and his art turned out amazing. So I thought he'd do a good horror style, and he did. It's probably the most popular cover in the sense of Facebook reactions and all that. So it was great to work with him, and I was like, I could have saved it, and I'm like, you know what? I can't hold. I'm bad. I couldn't hold on to it for another issue. I was like, I want to give it to people now. This is so great, and maybe it'll help sell. And then I did a Romero cover as well. So I met George. Is it R. Romero? I always get it messed up, A or R. But anyways, George, I'm going to say R. A. Romero. Quite a few years ago, the guy who does Creepshow and all that, the creator of that type of horror from the day. And I did an homage cover to him trying to one weekend. And I had to throw that in there too. I should probably have put so many covers, but I thought I've seen other campaigns where they go to decay. I couldn't believe the other day with covers. Like, it's insane how many people want to sell you variant covers. But yeah, there's a variety of stuff here. Even my first laser project is there.
So let me ask this. Do you think we're in a variant bubble?
Yeah, I think people are overdoing it.
Let me rephrase a little bit. Do you think we're in a variant bubble on Kickstarter, or do you think we're in a variant bubble collectively in comics? Because those are two separate things completely.
Yeah, I think it's got a huge impact on everything. And if you were to talk to me 4 years ago, I had no clue what a variant was until I went to cons, and then Corey was telling me about them, and my friend Corey. So I was like, why would someone buy? To me, I was just blown away. You're telling me I'm selling you the same comic book. I put another cover on it, and you want to buy it? I was like, this makes no sense. Being a writer and a creator, I was like, why would I ever do this? I feel like I felt like I literally would be ripping somebody off because I'm selling them the whole comic. I didn't understand the collecting of the covers as much as, as it is. And it's an amazing thing, but is there too much of it would be the question. Like when someone's going to K, Alphabet, they're getting pretty close to, 15, 20 covers, but I get they want to sell comics. But are you really selling comics, or are you selling a piece of art? Because that's really what it becomes.
Feel that it's this balance though between the idea of cool, I need to fund my project, and that cover K is a $50 variant, and that if I have 17 covers, I'm pumping more money in, but I want to get to 15,000 or 20,000, and that now because I want to make money on this and I want to fund a bunch of other shit, and but you're also spending more money. I mean,
you need it. You do need variants. That's one thing I've learned. And the reason you need variants for Kickstarter as a creator is because it's supposed to, and I'm terrible at this, and probably why I should be investing in artists who are popular, because what we need to do if you're going to be successful on a Kickstarter is get another person's bubble of fans, right? So, I do things based on whether I love the artist and their art. And I've had this conversation directly with the artists that I need them to support them as much as they can, because there's artists out there who maybe aren't the best artists in the world who have huge followings. So when you do a certain person's cover, you now get their bubble of followers. But I think there's too much of that. If you're going to K, you're trying to attract everybody's.
Do you feel though, because this is where it gets complicated, right? So obviously I carry a lot of Zenescope, I carry Mount Olympus, I carry Big Dog Inc., I'm carrying Merc, carrying some Power Hour, and now I just added some other stuff that I don't want to talk about. I carry a bunch of stuff, and then I go off Broadway, and then I go further off Broadway for a reason, because this is how you compete. In which I need to find it, but I also understand that I'm not trying to be all into Zenescope, because now I'm in somebody's bubble too much, and that could sink. And so I feel very just my thought process and my initial thought process is that if you're relying on a particular artist, and then this artist, what happens when they fall out of faith? I mean, this is the issue, is that you're putting your control into somebody else's hands. And I think that's a very dangerous position. I really do, because I want to control my destiny. And this is I go back to when I say I'm in this for the money. I legitly sell comics, I take my profit and put it into the stock market and collect my dividends and watch them grow. Because if you have $1 million in your bank account, you control your destiny in a lot of ways. Not saying I do or I don't, but when you have money in the bank, you have a lot of control. Where, great, if you have $1 million in the bank, you can do a comic for $6,000, and it's not going to hurt you. You will make more in the interest, and great. You say you go for $500, you say I'm going to do it my way, and you all can join me, and I don't need to play your game anymore.
It's a team. I really view it as a team effort creating the comics. Even though I'm sitting here, I'm an artist. I need other people I need to depend on other people. And that's been the hardest thing as a creator to do, was for me to find a team. At one point I'd given up, actually, because I kept investing in people and I was getting nothing out of it. So I gave up before Corey started Sister Mercy. And then I came back when he did Sister Mercy, and I found that he could find a stable team. I was like, okay, maybe the world's changed enough, or maybe I can find the right bubble of people to work with. So I've been very fortunate to find it, but they don't have a big following. So the following is so important to making a Kickstarter successful. Now I could dump them and say, I'm going to go find person B and pay them a lot of money, and they're going to bring me 50 more people, right? Yeah.
Did you feel though that maybe you don't need to dump the team, but you just need to add parts in? So it's like building a baseball team.
Yeah, it is exactly like that.
So I'll use the Mets, right? Right now, the Mets have built Pete Alonso, they built Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil. You know, they're going to be building Mauricio and Luis Angel Acuna. And then they bought Francisco Lindor. So Francisco Lindor was not a Met. He wasn't in the Mets farm system, but he was bought for $30 million a year.
Right.
But he's one of the best shortstops ever. He has two. He's the 10th shortstop with 200 or more home runs. Guy's great. He's in the 30-30 club. The point is that guy's an amazing player, but he's a component where they bought him, but they grew players and they developed players. So when I feel with teams, just in general, because what you feel is that great, go out and hire Greg Bo Watson, but you don't need to dump your team. You could go hire Greg Bo Watson and hire Sen Kumanaki, who's Canadian, and great, you just added components in. And then guess what? Next time you do issue 4 of Rakehell, go hire Jamie Tyndall or go hire, I'm trying to think of somebody, Mike DeBaffo or Mercer Pope. Now what you've done is that you've added and shift out part components. And so cool, maybe you don't get to do a Romero cover every single time, but guess what? You brought in Greg Watson, and that replaces Romero. And then the next round, you move somebody else out. So you're just moving somebody out and benching them for a game.
Yep. And that's what a lot of people do, and they don't even keep them for the long term. But I am trying to, and it does come to budget. It all spins back to the budget conversation as well too. So it all goes part and parcel, but also to the talent of the person. I believe in kind of trying to support some of these up and coming artists, and trying to, and maybe it's a wrong approach, but you're right. If I was to mix it up more, and bring in, some of these other artists who are out there who have following, some of them don't fit at all into what I'm doing. And it comes back to the fact that I'm not doing right now, female covers, like the industry is doing in some spots.
I'm going to challenge you though. So great. Sen Kumanaki in a lot of ways, she's great. She has a lot of sexy bad girl covers. But what would it be like if she did not a sexy bad girl cover? You're going to tell me that's not going to be the thing? Of course it's going to be the thing, because guess what? She hasn't done that. So great. You say, look, I want you to do something horror that is not sexy, and I want you to do something that is completely out of your boundaries, that what you're known for, that you've done for the last 6 years. Bam. You don't think that's not going to sell like crazy?
That's her following though. That's getting her following in it, right? So that's the value of paying her more, whoever it is more.
See, I take risks, and I disagree to some degree, because I think her following likes her work. So they're going to be like, I need this cover, and now it's limited to 50. Like, I got to buy this thing now. And that's my whole argument, is that I get it that she's done A, B, C, and D, but I'm a contrary person by definition. So I always take the contrary approach and say, if you're a true collector of her, you're going to want this book, and you limit it, and bam, you could sell it.
Yeah, and I think you're right to a degree, but there's also the opposite side of that, and that's the people who want her other style of cover might go, I'm not going to buy this because this is her going in a different direction, and I don't want her to do that. I just want this type of cover. So it can really go. That's where it becomes a gamble, to a degree. But in the end, you got to take gambles. If you don't take gambles, like if I don't take gambles on investing in certain people. And I'm learning this. The variant cover thing is actually a big learning curve for Kickstarters. If you need to invest in it, and the artist with the followings, if you want to be successful, you need to have somebody, like, you need to bring in the bubble of each creative person into your bubble to make it bigger and more successful. And that's where in the next issue you bring in, as you were kind of hitting at, another person. So now you get their fans, and if they like your product, they're going to stick around. And you keep growing it in this kind of almost organic fashion, and you're supporting a lot of artists at the same time. But what I don't want to do is, someone like Jericho Guerrero, who's done some great work for me, like he did the Hellhound one over there, and a lot of people received a lot of his art well who see it. I don't want to have to go, I don't have money for you to do a cover this time because or to do something because I just paid Jimmy over here. But that's maybe being too nice.
But do you
Because
also
I'm
think
trying to engage them to understand that they need to have a social following, and that some people don't understand it, honestly.
so I have a very different view where my goal is that obviously I run a business, I'm supporting me, and it ultimately, I mean, I have a day job, so I can start my business and I'll be just fine in the long run. It'll slow down what I want to do, but I'll be just fine in the long run. But what I've learned is that if I make more money, I can take care of more people. So if I'm to do a comic book, and
True.
then I hired Greg Bow or Senko Manaki or Mike DeBaffo, Marissa Pope, a bunch of other people, and then I move people around, and I had to sit people down every once in a while. I could say, look, you're going to get a much larger piece of the watermelon later on. But great, every 5 covers, you got to sit one out. I'm sorry. And because my goal is to help the business, which then hires you. And so that's how I view it, where I don't have a problem with where I'll back off of people's covers. And it's not because I don't want to support you as a company, but it's because if I buy this cover, this cover, this cover, this cover, and this cover, great. I'm going to pull in 15K so that when I do want to come back to you, I have money to buy your shit. And great, it doesn't sell for 6 months. I can hold your debt. And so I have to think about it like that, where I have to make sure my business is healthy first and foremost. And I think this is a real issue where I'm going to do whatever is appropriate for the business. There is no feelings here in what I do, because if the business fails because of my feelings, nobody's eating. But if the business is successful and you don't get to eat, on a Tuesday, but you're eating on Wednesday with me, I'm sorry that you missed dinner on Tuesday.
Yeah, and I do agree with you, and that's part of the learning that I've done over getting to Kickstarter and understanding these variants. But also as well, there's the other problem is that certain artists they're so popular beyond their price, they're very picky what they work on. I've already ran into that a couple times.
And I made them pay indefinitely. In which that if you do that, I've come across that, and I have openly said that there will be a point where I will make you pay for that decision. I have no problem getting that, and I am that.
Because I have no problem paying somebody. Let's say I was looking at one.
No. I'm not saying that's not the issue. I will make people regret doing, because I understand where I'm going, and I understand that I am a high-end client, and that we're talking. If somebody treats me well, and when I approach them, they said, "Oh, I don't want to do this," and I'm like, "You have to realize that if we form a relationship, we're probably going to form $50,000 to $60,000 with the business." And you said no, not realizing that I was about to hand you one hot book for a cover, and I'm like, "Great."
There's always people that you want to work with and you don't. And once you meet them, you think you want to work with them, and then you meet them and you go, maybe I don't want to work with this person.
People make bad decisions. I've learned that a long time ago, where people don't understand who to do business with, and when somebody's bringing them a gift and a golden goose. And I have Excel sheets and just keep tabs. And what I've learned is life is a circle. And
karma's a bitch, as they say. It'll come back at you.
1,200. Remember when you turned me down on that hot book over there that we were going to make a lot of money on? How about 800? I'm feeling much better at 800. What about you?
Yeah.
I got no problem admitting that. I got no problem, because I understand. I also have a lot of capital to deploy, so I don't really
It's about where you're happy with, and to me, I've worked with bad artists, and I don't mean bad artists as in like can't draw. I mean bad attitude artists, or where people have a real great example is one comic I did years ago. The artist had an anxiety attack in the middle of it. So they, that's why when someone doesn't fulfill, I can understand all sides of things, because imagine your artist, you're near the end of your comic and they can't do the last 10 pages because they have an anxiety attack. I was stuck and it wasn't a Kickstarter I was doing. I was stuck at one point with like, I can't tell this person how to do their job properly because they have an excuse, right?
I've had an anxiety attack. It's been a while. Since I've had one.
Hey, I got no problem with the anxiety attack. I have no problems with someone getting stressed. It's not easy doing this stuff. Doing anything sometimes in life can be.
I understand. I mean, it's not a secret.
The problem is it's the problem that I have the money invested in you, and I needed the comic for a deadline to go to the first Comic-Con ever. You know what I mean? That I've ever gone to, and now I'm in trouble a bit.
Look, I understand business happens, right? So
Yeah.
certain people are slow printing. I get that something is late.
Yeah.
2 months. I'm understanding. Justin Hampton did a poster book. First campaign, way over his head. Book's going to be great. I get that the book was supposed to be in my hands like in May. It was supposed to be in my hands in October. I get that we're looking at February, right? Am I annoyed? Yes. Do I understand? Yes. So my point that I'm getting at is I am well aware that shit happens. But my point is that, but if you're like, oh, I had an anxiety attack. I mean, there gets a point though. Now we're like 8 months out. Like, I'm sorry. I get that you have anxiety. I get that shit happens, but excuses run out after 6 months.
Right. And I've had that happen too, where a person gives me excuse after excuse after it starts off well, and then the excuses start, and they want money up front all of a sudden. They want, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, this is getting interesting. Oh, I got this family event going on. And I'm not here to be I'm here to be your friend. I want to be your friend. I want to be part of a creative team with you, but I'm not here to carry you either. Right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
This is how I view it, is that I had a surgery on my foot, like a 4-hour surgery, and get home. My surgery, I got knocked out, left at 6 a.m. for my surgery, was back home, leg in a cast, not feeling my leg, can't even wiggle my toes because of a nerve blocker. And what am I doing? I did 2 interviews that night. Did 2 interviews, put my foot up and said, we're doing this. And guess what I did the second night? Did another 2. And then the third day, foot in a cast, not understanding, not sleeping, having a fucking spasm attack, needing a muscle relaxer because my muscles are freaking flipping out. I did 2 more interviews. So I have, like my point is that I understand that people have problems, but if I can do what I did, you should be able to do what you can. But I digress.
Yeah. And again, with an artist, typically, you know, it's a mindset. You do have to be in a certain mindset when you're going. You have to warm up, but you know what I mean. That, as you say, like, it's not like if you hurt your foot, it shouldn't stop you from drawing. So some people might say something like that, but you know, I get life happens. Like, none of us is, you know, what I've learned is to plan it better. So that's what you take away, and that's experience talking. So I've now dealt with person. I now realize that, you know what, maybe I need buffers before and to talk better, like when I'm going to do my release, and to add extra, we call it I forget it worse. What do we do our estimates? But we have a term for it. If we inflate the estimate, so my delivery date inflates because I know something could happen, right?
So if I know that I buy a book from somebody and they're gonna get it out to me in a week and I'm reselling it, I put 40 days out. Why? Because guess what? I know it's going to be here in a week, but guess what? Nobody ever complains about a book arriving early.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. I've gotten somebody ask me to delay shipping because they're not going to be home. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'm happy to like, I'm like, you're the first person who's ever asked me this. And I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, you paid for it. We're good. Like, well, what's going on here? Like, you know, I was like, oh, dude, I'm on vacation. I don't want it in my mailbox. I'm like, fair enough. Happy to delay it. Person's like, yeah, thank you, man. I'm like, you're the first person who ever asked me that. Very weird conversation. I thought it was funny, but the point is that I put it out 40 days because of that. So I completely agree about buffers, because guess what? If I have 40 days to ship something and it arrived yesterday, I got 40 days to ship it. Gives me a lot more flexibility, because guess what? Shit happens in life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to realize these are all people, you know, things are happening to all of us. You know, again, these are gray hairs on my head. So I've had some health problems as well that have slowed me down the last year and a half or so. Yeah.
My hair's all gray, man. Like, the amount of stress. I mean, you try buying some crazy shit, spending a lot of money, and then say, what the fuck did I just do? What the fuck? And then a week later, everything that you bought sold, you don't have it, and you're like, oh my God, I have the money to cover it, but what the fuck? My merch is not here. So I got delayed by 3 weeks. Like, what the fuck? Oh, it's terrible.
Do you know what's the worst about all of this? is that there's this mailman person in the middle of it, this delivery person in the middle of us. We always have to worry about. We don't know if they're going to bend it, if they're going to do something horrible to it, or like, I'm sitting here all the time going, oh, like my collector's edition, a whole bunch of them came damaged and I didn't catch on when I first got them. They damaged the corner of them. So about 10 of them, I had to discount the price on, and I never didn't actually sell them. I kept them in the back here. I would give them away as promotion every now and then because of a mailman person, and I didn't catch on that I got hit on a corner when it got, you know what I mean, at some point. So
my whole thing is that it's like, I mean, my comps are up pretty well and my merch rides pretty well, but I'm like, oh my god, like what the fuck? Like you try like making like, so like is the worst thing. I buy something and then like 6 hours later it sells and I'm like, great, but where the fuck is it? Like
it's
like,
lost in the system.
No, it didn't even come out yet. And like I'm like, oh my god, like I just want to get you your product. Oh, it's a mess. And this was like freaking May. Like I legitimately bought items and within like 20 minutes they all sold out in my store. And I'm like, what the fuck?
So I gotta show you this. So this came in the mail the other day. This is from the Forsaken Future. I mailed this out in February to it just happens to be my friend Jared in Ottawa, the same city as me. He never got it, and it got returned back to me yesterday from February. So for whatever reason, he didn't pick it up. It took it like 6 to 8 months to get back to me, and we're in the same city. I'm so confused right now. But anyways, I haven't even told him yet. Hey, by the way, you never got your foil poster. It's sitting right here. You know.
You see, it's funny because with shipping, I insure packages, especially when they go to New Jersey.
Oh,
I've had like
you got a stereotype there against New Jersey's.
No, because New Jersey's post office is corrupt. I've said, let me explain. Wyoming's post office, they'll like drop it right off at the guy, like, hey, we delivered your package. Utah's like, we got you, bro. Like California, California, as long as it's not on fire, you're good. So
insurance money.
if there's a forest fire, you don't send packages to California until it's put out. So, and everybody laughs.
Rules to live by. I love this.
Look, with New Jersey, you insure your packages in New Jersey because the post office is corrupt in New Jersey, and I'm pretty sure there's a code on that package that says, guys, this is insured. Make sure it's delivered because if it's not, you're fucked, and we're gonna owe this guy money. So, guys, don't take the package home. I guarantee there's a code that says that in New Jersey because I've lost like 5 or 6 packages in New Jersey.
They're like playing frisbee with them in the backyard, you know. Like,
no, I guarantee you, the guys just opening them up and they're like, "Woohoo, we got something today!" Yeah, I knew it was a comic. Oh boy, metal card. I guarantee you,
it's like this.
Oh man, what indie comic did we get, guys? I bet it's kind of cool. Let's read this. Some good shit here, like.
Yeah,
I guarantee that's what's going on in New Jersey. I'm willing to put money, and I think we should have like the FBI in the States.
Yeah, no, we've talked about Trump conspiracies. I hear a lot up here in Canada. We got the real conspiracy now.
It's the New Jersey post office. Look, I'm in Connecticut, and I'm telling you, New Jersey is a corrupt post office. It's the most corrupt post office. I'm willing to stake real money on that claim. And but if you insure,
they can have people listening to us. Be careful.
I don't care. I insure my package. I don't care if they steal somebody else's package. That's fine.
If Andrew disappears, I didn't say anything bad. Mine were all jokes.
No. So you insure your package when it goes to Jersey, and you're fine. Because guess what? They're like, oh man, this motherfucker here, in here, and that scumbag, he insured his package. Can't
track it. You know exactly what I'm doing with it.
God,
terrible frisbee, anyways.
Guys, we can't touch this. We can't damage it. We have to treat it gently. Oh, but this one's not insured. I'm taking it.
Yeah, ding, 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 ding. You're like hands are up like in wrestling. It's like they just won a wrestling match.
I'm telling you that happens.
Walking around with your package to the post office.
I'm just saying. So I'm gonna throw it out for the 3 people who are watching here. If you would like, maybe I'll make a documentary and we can fund it on Kickstarter about the New Jersey Post Office and investigating journalism. Okay.
I gotta go. Also, I don't want them. I told you about the maple syrup mafia earlier, which is the funniest story I thought ever. I never thought there'd be a mafia around maple syrup, but they actually proved that there was.
That's great. That's great.
You know what I mean? And it goes right into the States. You know what I mean? These people smuggling maple syrup, the millions. But anyways.
But I'm just saying that's my stance on New Jersey. Everything else in New Jersey is great. Everything else, but I found the solution. You insure your packages going to New Jersey and going through New Jersey. They're not going to touch it, but going to New Jersey, you insure it.
Are you insuring it with somebody named Jimmy the Tuna by any chance or anything like that? Yeah, Jimmy the Tuna. He'll get your package there. You know.
There's so many jokes. There's so many jokes I can make. I'm insuring with the biggest mafia of all time, the U.S. government, but that's not the point.
Yeah, and they probably got lots of maple syrup.
No, I love the U.S. government. I love the U.S. government in case they're listening. But I digress here. But we've been speaking for a while, and I figured we're going to get to the best part here. We're going to talk about religion and politics next. Oh no. I'm pretty sure I know exactly where you stand on politics. You believe in voting early and often.
No. I mean, yes, I do. Thank you, Andrew, for your support. Yes. My spouse votes all the time. I'm kind of like, is there anybody really here who's going to do anything different in Canada?
I meant that I vote multiple times during every election cycle, but hey, each to their own.
That's where all my votes went. What are you doing voting up here? What the hell? What the Rakehell?
That's how I feel. But anyway, no. I vote once, like every good American citizen, with my multiple aliases. So
you hire some people to vote for you. Get some homeless people all lined up. Here's a sandwich. You gotta vote.
What's your name again? Perfect. I got you. Here's your sandwich. Would you like a blanket too?
You want cheese on that? No.
Have you ever seen Taylor Williams doing stand-up?
No.
Oh, so Taylor Williams, I think, was on America's Got Talent. And he's like, I'm coming to. Oh, he's hilarious. His funniest joke is that I saw a homeless person with their blanket, and he's referring to their newspaper, and he says, "Well, at least they're well read." What a sick human being he is. He's one of the funniest stand-up comics.
I've watched a lot of America's. I'm a huge fan of America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent. Yeah, Josh. Bloom, is it Josh with the broccoli shirt on? I watched him stuff on YouTube. Oh my god, he's hilarious. But there's so many good comedians that have come out of there. I'm surprised one hasn't won.
Was this the piano guy?
No. Oh, that piano guy this year who did music and then he didn't meet the church guy?
No, there's a piano guy who was a comedian and he comes out and he's wearing like a sweater vest.
Oh no, this is the guy with cerebral palsy. He has the one arm. He says, I don't know what this one's doing all the time, and it's got a watch on it. You know what I mean? And he talks to a bunch of his situations, like being on Olympic soccer teams with cerebral palsy and all these other. Yeah, Josh Bloom is funny. I think it's Josh Bloom.
I know who Josh Bloom's is. Oh,
he's got big puffy hair, and he's great. You got to take life light, right? You know what I mean? With all these situations.
So
I love seeing that.
I forget, this guy was on British Got Talent, but then he was like playing the piano, doing stand-up comedy. And so at the final, what he does is that he goes and then he just starts doing it and he puts it on autoplay. Then he goes and he takes off his shirt and another shirt is on there of the same type. And he takes off that shirt and then it's another one. Oh, it was just staring at Simon the entire time with like a frowny face. Oh, it was great. It was great. The whole thing was
I'll
great.
have to look it up. Yeah. There's not many that got past me. I'm pretty on top of them.
He was great. And then he's like talking about how he was like a substitute teacher and they're all talking about how they were supposed to have sex with like a goat and then he says I had to leave that school because I got tricked. Great comedian.
Yeah.
How he would never, it's just brilliant comedian, brilliant in so many ways. But I digress. Some of these we can talk about, but again, religion is next, guys, and politics is next. So,
We're gonna
no.
solve all the world problems in one show.
No. All I need is just when I'm president. All I need is one country to act up, and I'll fix it.
Oh,
in an hour.
Excellent.
While I'm drinking
with
my
indie comics, you're gonna ship me some indie comics. You're gonna be like, hey. Like, oh, I feel much better now. Thank you.
I have the solution, and I will do it while sipping my Diet Coke. Oh man, it'll be great.
Oh, nice.
Remember, guys, why go Coca-Cola when you can go diet, solving problems,
0 calories,
like a boss. You just see like
get back to work, everybody.
And then the background of the commercial, you just see the world burning.
Nothing wrong here. Take a drink.
Oh, it'd be great. I mean, I'll sell millions of dollars of Coca-Cola.
Millions.
If I'm never president.
This is your path to presidency. Okay. The Coke and a smile, as I think they used to say for the commercials. It's a Coke and a smile.
Oh man, if I become the president, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have somebody throw like 2 cans of Diet Coke, and then I'm just gonna Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, nice! Wanna do the chug?
and then I gotta
right at the press conference part where they do the part when they ask you something real serious, right? Yeah. What do you think about abortion?
You know how funny during my presidential speech, if I become president and I just do that, oh my god, it would be so sick. Oh, it'd be great.
You better have some trust in that person throwing the Coke at you, because those guys who throw it to Stone Cold do a great job. But you better have someone with a good arm. That's your running mate, whoever it is. Maybe someone from baseball, a pitcher or something to lob it in.
You have like a softball coach throw it to you because they're good at that.
Yeah.
And then you go and then you chug it and then you throw it down and then you do another one. Oh, it'd be great.
Right with the next question, right when they want you to answer the question a second time. Oh, wait. Clunk, clunk. Get a little bit of foam on them, kind of spit it out a little bit at them to get rid of them. It's a real serious question.
You have to do it in like a white shirt, so it gets completely drenched.
Oh, that'd be horrible. Oh, imagine how sticky it would be too. Like beer would be sticky, but pop would be like, I imagine would be like a mess to, no one will want to be near you. You just kind of got to walk with the cans and kind of wave them around as you walk, just so it sprays everywhere as you go through all the reporters and stuff. It'd be great.
Oh my god! But anyway, enough about my presidential acceptance speech. Is going to be that
he's not going to be received so well in New Jersey. I have a feeling in one of the post offices may not.
We're going to absolutely do the presidential speech and acceptance speech in Jersey. It's going to be hilarious. Absolutely.
Right outside the post office.
right outside the post office. We're going to be like, we're doing it here,
guys.
Guy
running in the background with one of your packages away. Yeah.
So you'll have a guy with one of my packages in like a hamburger mask stealing it?
Yeah, like the striped outfit, like the prison outfit. Big nose.
Oh my god, it's gonna
be great. Best president ever. I'm voting.
I'm gonna have at least 3 good terms in the White House, at least.
And those are just words. Term 1, term 2. They're gonna be the best 3 terms ever.
Well, I'm gonna get elected for 3 terms. I could tell you that.
Nice. 4th term.
No. I will give that to FDR. Anyway.
Nice. I don't know if they'll want it. Maybe. FDR in control might be a little rough. Everybody's gonna get chopped really hard.
Oh my god, so many things I could say. See, what's really funny is that all of this is wrong about American history. That's what's hilarious about this joke. Oh, it's great. It's so great. But watch this. I will get 3 terms. Just watch. I will change the Constitution just for myself. If Bloomberg can change New York City to have 3 terms, I don't see why I can't have 3 terms as president. I'm just saying. I don't see why I can't do it.
Just saying. And that's
all I have to do is
speech.
All I have to do is get what? 2/3 of Congress and 2/3 of all the states, and I'm good to go, right?
Just change all the rules once you're in there. It'll be fine,
It's kind of like, maybe I'll just executive order it.
Maybe, maybe you can have a cast and it'd be like this, but you like have puppets on your hands on either hand. And they could be like talking with you. Oh, we're gonna vote now. Yeah, for Andrew. Yeah, for Andrew too. That's 3 votes. We're through. See you later.
Have you seen the SNL thing about how a bill becomes a law?
No.
Oh my God! So you know Schoolhouse Rock, right?
Oh yes, yep.
So they took that concept and then it's a bill becomes a law, and then instead of a bill becomes a law, he goes all the way up, and then Obama pushes the bill down. It's easier than that, kid. Executive order.
It'd be better if the executive order pushed him down. Big dressed up as an executive order, like with written on it.
Obama pushes the bill down, and then he gets an executive order, and then you have the executive order just like smoking a blunt.
Oh, what? What are you gonna do?
And then the bill's like, what the hell? And then Barack Obama pushes the bill down again. Oh, it's so good. It's much easier than that, guys. It's much easier than that, kid. Executive order. And like, oh, it was great. The whole thing was hilarious. It's so true. It's so true. And I love government. Government's great. Government's great if you're a defense contractor, and if you're a war contractor, or if you're an oil rig. Government's great.
Oh yeah. Oh well, if you like guns too.
I'm pretty sure this show is going to be canceled in like a week. I'm pretty sure.
Crazy Canadian got me canceled in 2 hours of talking to the bastard.
So on that note, guys, this is my last show. I'm letting everybody know I'm probably going to be canceled.
Cancel culture, man. Cancel culture.
Till Friday. So, because I'm going to a concert on Thursday, and I'm going to have a good time. I'm not telling you who I'm seeing. It's not Taylor Swift. I want to make that crystal clear. I can't afford those tickets. If I could, I would, but I can't. But on that note, I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself, because we've been speaking for 2 hours. And we could probably go on for another 2 hours very easily. But
oh yeah.
I want to give you a chance to promote yourself. So where can people find you, follow you, hit you up, check out what you're doing, all that fun stuff?
Yes. So I put a lot of work over the last year into whitefirecomics.com to try and make it kind of my home base for everything. So I got my blog off there. You can see the Forsaken Future. You can see what's going on with Rakehell and all that stuff. So it's really my home base right now for stuff. But right now on Kickstarter, of course, Rakehell 2 is out there, and looking for some support out there for that for sure, with lots of great rewards and very different rewards. I tried to build it, I mentioned the hollow foil covers. I made like a crossblade laser made bookmark, which is real leather. It's a really beautiful piece. Actually, I have it right here. It's a gorgeous little bookmark, real leather. And I really love the antique look of it. So there's a lot of cool little rewards there. Check it out. It's worth a look. And besides that, you can catch me at Whitefire Comics everywhere, pretty well. Twitch, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Where else do I hang out? That's pretty well it. I think it might be on TikTok, but I really don't hang out on TikTok. You won't find me there. I do have some ads though.
And then I've been saying it, I'm going to keep saying it, you got to support comics and indie comics. And the way you do that is by backing Kickstarters. Also, the way you do it is that following people on social media, checking out what they're doing, obviously following them on all their platforms, super helpful. And sharing out what they do, sharing out their content. It goes a long way. And it means something. And interacting with people is also a big deal. So that's something that I've been professing for years, and I'm going to keep saying it because it is super helpful. And then on top of that, let's say somebody doesn't have a Kickstarter, but they have a store or they're at a con, buying something from them is also incredibly helpful in a lot of ways. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So that's super important. And then as far as I'm concerned, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter /X, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on TikTok, Pop Anime Comics Collectibles on eBay. And again, everybody orders. I got like 49 of them left, or maybe 47, but you get a free one of these if you order from me. Not this copy, because this copy is a little bit beat up, but you get a nice fresh copy. And some other cool swag too that I have. So you know what you're gonna get in your box. But cool stuff. So obviously there, and then on TikTok, but I already mentioned, on Pop Anime Comics, and YouTube is Pop Anime Comics as well. And I have over 1,200 videos, and there's a lot of content up on YouTube. So there's something for everybody out there. And I have a lot of stuff with interviews with comic creators, cosplayers, voice actors, wrestlers, you name it, I've interviewed it, and some adult entertainment, which is a lot of fun. So keep that in mind if you want to be entertained. I guarantee you never know who's coming on my show, and you don't know who I know. So there you go. So that's all I have to say. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
No, just a big old thank you, Andrew, for what you do and getting out here and getting a little bit of a conversation going. It's always fun. I always enjoy hanging out with you for a little while and talking shop, shall we say.
And I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a wrap.